All right. Well, it looks like we got a nice little crowd here. Well, thank you everybody for coming to today's edition of the leadership series. As per usual, before I get started, I have to go through some housekeeping administrative matters. So first of all, a little bit about our law firm, Hull and Chandler. Our law firm is a client-centered law firm providing legal services to individuals, families, businesses, and nonprofits in Charlotte, North Carolina, and throughout the Carolinas. Our award-winning attorneys help clients solve problems and create ongoing value. You can find our attorneys advising entrepreneurs about starting businesses and advising investors looking to acquire businesses. You can also find our attorneys serving as counsel to nonprofits, ensuring they stay legally compliant. Our attorneys help families plan their estates to ensure their loved ones are taken care of after their time on earth is through. You can also find our attorneys in court protecting the rights of individuals, families, and businesses, whether you're part of a business deal gone sour or whether you're the victim of an auto accident because of someone else's negligence. Hull and Chandler is proud to sponsor this, the Leadership Series, the program where Hull and Chandler attorney Rocky Cabagnot interviews local and regional leaders in the nonprofit, private industry, and governmental sphere to discuss the interplay of law, business, and social dynamics within the context of our continuously changing times. So I'm your host, Rocky Cabagnot. I help nonprofits stay legally compliant and avoid legal problems through my fractional general counsel services priced to meet the needs of nonprofits, whatever part of the life cycle that they're currently at. If you'd like to learn more, please follow up with me directly or contact Shannon Hames. Prior to coming on board at Hull and Chandler, I was executive director at a multi-million-dollar federally funded community action agency. I was a clinical legal educator at the ABA Law School that used to be located here in Charlotte. And I was a legal services attorney representing community-based organizations that built affordable housing. As you can tell, I'm a huge social sector advocate, and I bring that passion to my practice and into this show. So let's get started. On March 8th, we mark and celebrate International Women's Day. For those of you not familiar, what is International Women's Day? Well, International Women's Day is a global day celebrating the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. This day also marks a call to action for accelerating gender parity. Across the globe, groups come together to celebrate women's achievements, to rally for women's equality, or both. Marked annually on March 8th, International Women's Day is one of the most important days of the year to celebrate women's achievements, raise awareness about women's equality, lobby for accelerated gender parity, and fundraise for female-focused charities. While we prepare for International Women's Day, all of us as a country are trying to recover from the major effects of the COVID-19 pandemic upon our communities, our professions, our jobs, our families, our personal lives. No part of society has been left unscathed by this global pandemic. American women who are both professionals and workers have been hit hard by the pandemic's effects. Many commentators have remarked about COVID-19 and the quote, America's first female recession. Today, we're going to review the effects of America's first female recession and what is being done about it. Joining us today is Kerry O'Connor, Executive Director of Dress for Success Charlotte. Kerry has been Executive Director of Dress for Success Charlotte since 2005. According to her LinkedIn profile, which I always check everyone's LinkedIn profile before you come on the show so I can sing your praises. And so she has received recognition from the Charlotte Business Journal's Women in Business, a Nonprofit Leader of the Year Award, and Women's Leadership in Action Award. She's a great person to have to celebrate International Women's Day because Dress for Success is an international nonprofit, which Charlotte is one of affiliate members of many. So everybody, let's welcome to the show, to the leadership, Kerry O'Connor. Yay.
Thank you.
Yay. Need a sound thing, Shannon. We'll put that on our little buzzer. Like the sitcom, everyone just chimes in, you know?
Yay, Kerry. Yay.
So Kerry, before we get into today's discussion, I've started a tradition of swiping a question from a gentleman that many of you might know in the nonprofit sector, Patton McDowell. And he has his own podcast called the Your Path to Nonprofit Leadership. And he always starts each show with this particular question. So Kerry, what was your path to nonprofit leadership?
It was not a smooth one.
Okay.
I actually grew up thinking that I wanted to be a world famous journalist.
All right.
And really liked kind of the direction Barbara Walters was in terms of interviewing individuals as opposed to reporting out on the day's news. So, growing up in upstate New York, from November to March, a lot of our news would have been the following schools are closed due to, snow. It was not what I expected it to be. I was very disillusioned. And, my first job, I was a morning newscaster at a station that was just poorly run, poorly managed. And so I stepped back from it and thought, okay, this is what I thought I wanted to do my entire life. And this really isn't what I want to do. And I didn't have a plan B. So at the time, I went back to probably one of the most important skills learned in college, and that was how to bartend. And
Okay.
so I was, as a part-time bartender.
I was always on the other side of that in college. I was the
Well, I'm sure after my shifts, I sat on the other side as well. But I was working part-time, but it was enough to sustain my living at the time. And I thought, I just need to figure out what I'm going to do. And around that same time, I saw an ad for a VISTA related position. And VISTA is like the domestic Peace Corps. It's now called AmeriCorps, but at the time, VISTA was now Volunteers in Service to America. I'm
very familiar with VISTA because out of law school, my first job, I was an AmeriCorps housing attorney. So
okay.
So I was in legal services. And I mean, I don't go into like the backstory, but one of my jokes about that period was, as a VISTA lawyer, I made more. I mean, I did a summer clerkship at Womble. I guess they call it Womble Carlisle, but now it's called Womble Dixon. So I have there's like, what's wrong with this guy, Rocky? He was clerking at Womble Carlisle, and yet now he's in legal. There's obviously, you can see why I'm in the nonprofit social, because I didn't fit in very well in the Womble Carlisles and McGuire Woods of the world. It wasn't quite the place for me. But I made more money that summer working at Womble than the entire year I was a VISTA lawyer. I mean, but it was the most rewarding work, So I mean, when I hear another VISTA story, I know that you're in it for the cause. I mean, it's not for joke, So I respect it.
So it was. The position was at a food bank in upstate New York, and I had to make a commitment for a year. And again, I was making enough to pay my rent and sustain my lifestyle at the time. I didn't have a lot of needs. And what I very quickly came to realize in the food bank was more than 2.5 times the amount needed to feed every hungry American is lost somewhere between the field and the table. So we've got, if you will, picture a fishbowl, and fish will eat themselves to death, right?
Yeah.
So you're looking directly on at a fishbowl, and you're seeing food going into the fishbowl, and then you're also seeing this fish just kind of swim around, totally oblivious to the food. They go to turn it, and you see there's actually 2 fish tanks. Those old octagonal ones that you would throw the ping pong ball at the fair and hope that it went in, and you would get the fish.
Yeah.
And if you did, you were surprised you didn't get the octagonal bowl. You just got the fish in the Ziploc bag, and it was dead by the time I got home. Anyway, aside from that, so it really showed me that the resources are there. So linking the resources to the need became my passion. So I think of myself as a connector. And then the work that I've done since then is with organizations that I'm very, very passionate about, and that I can then go out, and I've got the passion and the energy and the desire to link those two together. So the good news is about my broadcasting background is I knew how to get the story in front of the media. I don't need the byline. I will give you the entire story. You can put your name on it as long as you tell the story and bring the issue to people. That's what drives me. So how I got to nonprofits or in the nonprofit world was kind of a misstep, but one that I was happy to take.
Okay. Well, so how did you get to Dress for Success?
We moved from upstate New York to Cleveland, Ohio for 9 years, and then moved here almost 16 years ago. And once my husband was settled in his new job and my children were settled in their new schools, I was still working in Ohio out of my Charlotte home office, and I would commute back and forth. But I had about 8 to 10 hours to volunteer. And I find volunteerism the quickest way to embrace your new community.
Hmm.
So I saw an article in the paper. It actually ran in the fall of 2005 that talked about the local Dress for Success affiliate shutting down.
Oh,
And my dad died when I was young, and I'm one of 8. So
wow.
I saw my mom, as a single mom, really struggle to make ends meet, put food on the table. She was fortunate to have a deep faith, and she was well educated, but continued on to get her master's. And I just saw her struggle, but I also saw her belief that everyone, no matter how little or how much you have, has something to give. And that
Hmm.
is something that we carry with us to this day, whether it was delivering plants to the elderly around Easter or delivering Thanksgiving baskets around Thanksgiving. She made sure that we knew the importance of giving. So when I read that the Dress for Success affiliate in Charlotte had shut down due to lack of sustainable funding,
Hmm.
I reached out to the worldwide office and said, my background is nonprofit management. If there's any interest in bringing this affiliate back, I'd like to be part of the conversation. About 24 hours later, I got a call from some of the former board members who regrettably had to vote to shut the organization down. We got together, we had a conversation, 5 of us created a new board, we wrote a new business plan, and by late 2006, we were back in operation.
That's amazing. Wow. So, I mean, it was really much on the precipice. I mean, the board had already voted to dissolve.
Yeah, it was shut down. There was no physical presence. It was gone. But the folks that I met with did believe that, we knew there was a need in the community. And so the first thing that I did, my role on the board was volunteer interim executive director.
Okay.
So I did what I call a development audit. And
Hmm.
because I was new to the community, I relied on them to give me the names of 20 stakeholders in the community that I could go and do a one-on-one interview with.
That's a great
And came
strategy.
back with some recommendations that, yeah, the need is there and the resources are there. We just need to create a business plan that is going to bring it all together.
Wow. I mean, that sounds like you can teach a course on just sort of resuscitation of a public charity, because that's, I mean, when you voted to dissolve, I mean, that's a pretty serious step. And so you
Yeah.
intervened there, and that you got their you were able to get their confidence and their trust, and then it sounds like within a year or so, the blood was pumping back into the body. It sounds like, for sure.
It was a collective effort for
Mhm.
sure. And while I had the nonprofit background, the other 4 had very important skills and connections to bring to the table. So it was really the 5 of us together. We had a community liaison, we had an accountant, we had the board chair, and then we had someone who had a background specializing in governance. So the 5 of us that came together really were able to put this back on the map. So our first full year of operation was in 2007, and then of
Mhm.
course the recession hit. So we had
Okay.
our first real test of, how the new team was going to operate, and we were successful in navigating through that.
Well, you know what? We're definitely going to spend some time talking about Dress for Success. I mean, obviously, its mission and things. We're going to table that for a second, because you did mention I mean, our country has had some serious economic crap, for lack of a better term, that has happened. Obviously, still stuck in our minds is 2007, 2008. But let's fast forward back to and rewind a little bit for us now to March of 2020, right? Or February, depending on where's your COVID clock start,
Right.
in your organization, right? And so obviously the topic of today's discussion, and one that we had talked about before we planned out the show, is the female recession as a result of COVID-19. And so what is the female recession? And then after you answer, and how did we get here?
Sure. So let me just start by saying, prior to the COVID
Mhm.
pandemic, Dress for Success's mission is to ultimately help women secure employment as a means of achieving upward economic mobility and strengthen their family.
Mhm.
Um, if you're familiar with the study that came out by Harvard and USC Berkeley, You know that Charlotte back in 2015 ranked 50 out of 50
Oh, yeah.
in
I
terms
know.
of economic mobility, and in some of the hardest hit populations prior to COVID were women and women
Yeah.
of color. And the majority of the women that we serve at Dress for Success are 80% are mothers, and of that 80%, 86% are single head of household.
Gotcha.
10% are parenting their grandchildren and also have next of kin responsibilities. And so there is a slide I'm going to show you here. I'll have to put my glasses on to do it, just to make sure I pull up the right one.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's see if I can share my screen. Let's do that. And just let me know when it's up. I think there's a little bit of a delay.
It's up.
Okay, so this woman in the middle represents our client. And ultimately, this is going to tell the statistic that when you lift a woman out of poverty, as many as 6 family members may follow. And so you see she has her children in the background, and she has her oldest daughter holding her child. So she's got responsibilities for her grandbaby. And then you see a gentleman in a wheelchair to the right, and that could be her parent. We're the sandwich generation. And so she has all of these responsibilities. And if we can lift her out of poverty and onto a path of self-sufficiency and upward economic mobility, she can take 6 family members with her. That is critical to not just the health of her family, but really the health of community. Because when a woman is fully involved in the workplace and has access to benefits, her family is healthier. And what's true of families is true of communities. So helping her to move towards economic independence benefits all of us. So that's prior to COVID-19, and that's the demographic that we serve. The majority of the women we serve are Black, Brown, or African American, and they just don't have access to services, whether it's, in most cases, it's generational poverty. Now with COVID, and some other things like the recession, you have situational poverty.
Gotcha.
Who are just maybe, a paycheck away from being evicted or bankruptcy or whatever, but are maintaining. And now things are out of their control, and one missed payment, rent payment, is going to force you to make some decisions. Heat or eat, you're going to have to give up something. So the other thing that was happening prior to COVID was that if women were in fact securing employment and doing well, which is what we coach them to do through our employment retention and career advancement programs, they're going to hit a certain level where they're still getting maybe some subsidies, childcare subsidies, housing subsidies. They're going to hit what's known as that benefit cliff. If you're doing okay and you did well, we're going to give you a merit increase or a promotion, but guess what? With that extra 50 cents an hour, you're going to lose $5,000 or $10,000 in benefits. So we set up people to fail in some cases, especially the most vulnerable. So in terms of COVID, when you look at the people who have left the workforce, more than 3 million women have left the workforce since COVID hit. And the reason for that is you have women who have to now be at home providing childcare, or if the schools have closed, which all did at some point, they now are at home. And if they have the benefit of technology at home, which all of us obviously do here on the call, their child may need it and they can't access it while their child is schooling. The other part of this is the industries that were hit the hardest: hospitality and tourism, transportation, education, healthcare. These are not jobs that you can take home.
Right.
So all of us on the call have the benefit of working from home, joining a Zoom call. So now you have a woman who is working a job around her children's schedule. Maybe she's the manager of the school cafeteria. School's closed. She's not working. So there are myriad challenges that are facing these women, but they have no way out. And so when you look at the female recession, you look at September 2020 alone, the number of women who left the workforce compared to men, it was 4 to 1. So we're setting these women back by about a generation. We were not closing the gap on equal pay, and gender equality. We were inching there, but we were inching upward. We're now back down where we were a generation ago.
It sounds like, there's that saying about the disparities within the disparities, right? And so obviously the pandemic has hit all workers, right? So there's like one level, but then they say disproportionately it affects workers of color. But even within that, then it disproportionately affects women of color, and then particularly those, because we talk about essential workforce, and we're definitely, lauding them for doing stuff that I wasn't willing to do, right? To go to Food Line and stock stuff while we didn't know what or how this, thing is transmitted. And no, you're right. I think that's a really powerful slide that you put there, because if you've got the woman there, but then all the different connections, like you mentioned the word connections that she had, and it's almost like as she goes, like they said, like as what was it, like in politics, as goes Ohio, I guess goes the nation. That saying,
Right.
As goes the woman, so goes our society, so goes our cohesion. And so, yeah, I mean, the pandemic has really kind of roughed things up, because definitely we've got the loss of jobs. But I think, and this is something I learned when I was running the Community Action Agency, because we were a childcare and a Head Start provider. And so this is where I, four corners of myself and some of the blinders that particularly I think, I would say most men in general have about workforce development is that there's that everyone is childless, apparently, so somehow we've got every worker doesn't have a child. And that's something I learned explicitly when I was running the Head Start program, and B, also serving, women and children and families, is that that childcare is huge. And I think that I think in many respects, even I think I saw something where maybe 1 in 4 childcare workers lost their jobs during this period. And I think that with the childcare closures, right, because everything's shutting down. But then if you're working, right, and I mean, it's hard to find childcare, period. I don't care where you are in sort of the socio, I've got friends, and we talk, and it's like, so we're about to give birth, and said, well, I got to get the childcare. I got to get on a waiting list. I'm like, but the child hasn't even been born yet, but you got to get on the waiting list for the quote unquote quality childcare, right? So everybody's wrestling with this at some level. But I think that, I think that the pandemic, and this is my take, and I don't know if you feel the same way, I think it has put childcare on the list of things that absolutely has to be considered from policymakers: economic development, workforce development, you name it, community development, whatever development. It has to be a line item that has to be addressed, because I mean, you see exactly what's happened. If we had a strong, vibrant, universal, or at least quality, accessible childcare system, I'm not saying that the COVID would but it would definitely, I think going forward, it's going to change a lot of, things. I don't know. What is your take on that?
No, universal childcare, just like universal healthcare, they are issues that need to be addressed. And women are the primary care providers for their children, for their family, and in most cases, they are the first that have to leave the workforce, and we see that in numbers. The numbers are staggering. You mentioned connections, so let's talk a little bit about connections, because the women that we serve lack social capital.
Yeah.
They may not have the networks that all of us have. They may not have the connection to be able to join today's call. And so one of the things that we do at Dress for Success, along with our affiliates around the world, is help to build social capital. So if the only connection that a woman has prior to connecting with Dress for Success is their faith-based organization, well, those too got shut down. And not everybody was able to quickly pivot to that virtual platform. And again, we're talking about women who maybe don't have access to technology. There is a huge digital divide linked with socioeconomic status and generational culture. And so, you think about these women, and this is a population that is extremely vulnerable and susceptible to what we call the despair diseases, depression, isolation. And so building that social capital is key to helping them advance. And so that's a big focus of what our programs are. People think of Dress for Success as just the suit. It's so much more than that. It's a full spectrum of workforce development services that includes job preparedness,
Mhm.
and our interview suiting and our employment suiting programs fall under that. So job preparedness, job acquisition, employment retention, and career advancement. And under all of those umbrellas, you've got health and wellness, financial education. So there's so much more that encompasses what we do.
Well, I think that's very, I think that of note. We're more than just suits. And I think, because I think when, I know when Shannon introduced us, I saw Dress for Success. Obviously in the title, it's got to do something with wardrobe, right? I mean, at
Right.
some level, I mean, at some level it has to do something with attire. However, as our conversation, before the show, it is a lot more than just a suit. And so I think it would be helpful, and I think we had talked about this, is maybe you can maybe talk about like the stories of some of the clients that you've served and sort of how they learned that Dress for Success is more than just a business suit.
Sure. We have a number of clients that have come to us. The majority came to us prior to COVID for the suiting program. And in early 2020, as we were celebrating our 20th anniversary, we really wanted to tell the story so people understood that Dress for Success was more than a suit. It's a wonderful brand, Dress for Success. It started 25 years ago in New York City. It was started by a woman by the name of Nancy Lublin and a couple of nuns from Spanish Harlem, because back then, during that welfare to work reform, there was a recognition that women were not getting the same back to work resources and options that men were getting. So it started with the suit, but the suit also became the beginning of building that woman's confidence up so that she could then go to an employer and seek employment. What has happened over time is each of the affiliates, as we become an affiliate, and think of a franchise, if you will, you have to start with the suiting program, and within 6 months of being approved to be an affiliate, you need to start the professional women's group program. And that's the employment retention and career advancement program. Because getting into the workforce, that's wonderful. Navigating the workforce brings myriad challenges. You've got women who don't have access to transportation. They have to learn how to navigate public transportation. And we know Charlotte is not known for their public transportation. They have to find the right childcare. To your point earlier, finding good childcare is very, very important. They need to learn how to navigate both the public transportation to get to the childcare, then to get to work, to get there on time. Now, there's a number of things. We also, here's an example, actually 2 examples that I'll give to you. We had one woman who found out she had 2 children. Her work shift was 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Her children were picked up at the bus stop at 6:30 in the morning.
Man.
She was able to get to work at 7 a.m. The Friday before that next week begins, she finds out that her child care worker, or wherever she was bringing her children, was no longer going to be available. I think it was an in-home situation, and the provider was no longer able to care for whatever reason. She wound up quitting her job. And the reason I'm sharing this example is part of what we do with our professional women's group program is we teach women how to find their voice and use their voice. Now, as an employer, and for those of you who are on the phone, if you had an good employee who came to you and said, my childcare just fell through. I can't leave my children on the bus stop at 6:30 in the dark alone until the bus comes. I need to find some good childcare. We would have taught her how to go to her employer and say, here's my situation. Here's how I'm going to resolve it. If you can give me 2 weeks to find new childcare, I promise that I will get everything done if you can just allow me some flexibility in my schedule. So we know to find a good employee takes far more than 2 weeks to post for the position, to interview for the position, to check all the references. Had she known that she could have gone to her employer and had that conversation, she might not have had to quit her job. Another example is we had women who were scheduled for evaluations that quit their jobs simply because of the fear of another person tearing them down, not fully understanding that an evaluation can be a negotiable conversation. So for example, Curry goes to Rocky for her 6-month evaluation, and Rocky says, Curry, you're doing a good job. We talked about these 6 things when we hired you. You did 1, 2, and 3, but you didn't do 4 and 5. Now, because of my monthly meetings in my professional women's group program, I've learned the importance of journaling and how to use that in my conversation. And I can go back to you, Rocky, and I can say, you're right, Rocky. I didn't get to 4 and 5, but you may remember in November and December when we had a shortage in our accounting department, I helped to assume some of those responsibilities during that transitional period. So they've changed the conversation, the direction of the conversation. For women who are victims of domestic violence and have a background of some kind of abuse, whether it's physical, emotional, they see an evaluation as another opportunity for someone to tell them everything that's wrong with them.
Right.
And it's horrible. So these connections, this social capital, this access to professional HR folks and some of the staffing agencies that give to us their time to help coach the women one-on-one is changing the direction of their lives.
It's fantastic. So, so I think that, so I guess like there's great stories. But I think you mentioned something about changing the path of a woman's life. I think when we had talked about that. So, where are some of the folks that you've worked with now? I think now that they've come through, I mean, where can we find, where were they, and then now where are they now? I think that's one of those, like those are the stories where it's like, you just want to, we want some W's, right? We've taken so many L's,
Right.
in the past year. We want some W's. So
right. Well, so March 1st, Monday, kicked off Women's History Month, and we have started a new campaign called Your Hour, Her Power.
Okay.
Because we do believe that 1 hour of your time can change the direction of a woman's life. Let me give you an example of that 1 hour first. We have a volunteer, an HR professional comes into our career center and meets one-on-one. She has a scheduled appointment with a client, and that client is maybe someone who is a veteran, has served in one of the branches of service, and does not have a civilian resume. And that HR professional is going to help her identify transferable skills, create a resume that she can then apply to a number of different employers. Another one is someone who doesn't have technology at home. Who takes paper applications anymore? And so it's she has the skills for a job, but has no means to apply for the job. The HR professional or the IT volunteer who comes in helps her to apply for that position so that she can secure employment. So in terms of W's, so I mentioned the Your Hour, Her Power campaign because 1 hour of your time can change the direction of women's lives, which we just gave examples of. So we launched the campaign on Monday with our campaign partners, Adams Outdoor. Let me see if I can pull up the screen. And we featured, here it is, Your Hour, Her Power. And we're going to go to this one. So do you see this billboard? Wait a minute. Is it not sharing? Hold on a second. I might not have hit my share. Let me go back to that. I forget that step sometimes. I apologize. Okay, let's try that. There we go.
Oh.
Is it up?
Oh, wow.
Okay. So our partners at Adams Outdoor have joined with us to promote Your Hour, Her Power. And every day in March, we're going to feature a different woman of power who has agreed minimally to donate 1 hour of their compensation to pay it forward to others.
That's fantastic.
As part of that, they are going to tag a minimum of 10 others and ask them to join with them in doing that. On Monday, and I'll see if I can pull this one up. On Monday, the client that we featured, or the woman that we featured, is a client who has successfully navigated our programming.
Okay.
And so she is, let me see if I can pull her screen up. She is now in the IT world, which is predominantly men. and she is a manager at CommScope, and she credits her leadership skills with the program that she participated in at Dress for Success. So she launched the campaign, and the cool thing is we're also going to close the campaign with another client. So let me see if I can pull this up. Let me know if you can see this. New share. All right, let me hit this. There we go. There's Alfrika.
All right.
So Alfrika's with CommScope. She's been with the organization for about 10 years now. And the reason I share that is our data will show us that the longer the women stay connected with us and leverage the different programming based on where they are in their employment journey, the more successful they are. So we thought the best way to personify what we do and the impact and how, you know, your time, your support affects change is by, you know, sharing with you the success story. So Alfrika kicks off on the 1st, and a woman by the name of Jade Mason, who is with BAA Systems, is going to close it out on the 31st.
That's very cool. So definitely. So for those of you who are interested in supporting this, how can, so if I want to donate 1 hour of my compensation and such, tell me, how do I go about doing that?
Sure. Let me just go down to that slide. Let's do this one here, you know, and just reiterate the importance of, see if we can do this. All right, did that come up, the statistics?
Yeah.
Okay. So women have lost a net of 5.4 million jobs during the pandemic. We talked about the September figure alone, 865 women dropped out of the workforce in September. Now, this is what's really impactful. The reduction in mothers' work hours and labor force participation will result in estimated 64.5 billion in lost wages and economic activity. Now, you think about the ripple effect. Yes, they're losing their wages, but you'll also think of the buying power that women collectively bring to a community. Nearly 90% of household decisions are made by the women, even more so in our situation where women are, let's see, the head of household. All right, let's do the new share. So if people want to support the campaign, I would ask them to consider this. Let me know if that came up.
Yeah.
Okay.
It says text for success to 41444.
Right.
And of course, I guess you can go to your website as well, which is.
We can. And what I would ask people to do is we are asking folks to, when they do this, to do one of those 10-second videos about why. Go ahead and tag other people and let them know you are part of this Your Hour, Her Power initiative. You are paying it forward as part of Women's History Month and helping to bring along another woman who maybe just doesn't have the resources that we all have and could use that hand up. And then share that video with us. Tag Dress for Success in all that you do, and we'll tag you. So you tag us, we tag you. But also we want to share that video as part of our messaging throughout the year. Women lifting other women is so important. But we also have a number of women who are tagging men. And one of our greatest partnerships we always joke about is with the NFL. And so we have more retired NFL players here in the greater Charlotte area than anywhere in the country. And in fact, there's two different groups. And people think Dress for Success and NFL. Well, if you ever watch the football draft, and you see someone who gets drafted by the Carolina Panthers and they go up on stage and they get the jersey and then they get a baseball cap that says Carolina Panthers, they're going to do 2 shout outs. One is going to be to their Lord and Savior, and the next one is mom. Because a lot of these guys were raised by strong single moms and they get how important the mission of this organization is. And so we have a great relationship. Unfortunately, that was the one event we had to cancel this year because the sweet sauce is having that direct connection and direct interaction with the players. You know, you can see their Super Bowl rings and Lombardi trophy. we just felt like that event going virtual would feel like any other halftime show. So we are looking at ways to recoup some of the revenues that we lost as a result of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, last year, because of external partnerships and some of the on-site events that we do, we are looking at a loss of over $115,000.
Mm,
Organization that is less than 600,000, that's significant.
absolutely.
So we're taking this opportunity while this football finale event is canceled, and we are launching the Your Hour Her Power as a way to raise awareness and funds for the organization and really make sure we're there for every single woman as she is getting back to the workforce. You know, and with the economy starting to recover, we need to make sure that she has all the support she needs to be successful.
So do you see with Dress for Success, do you see any sort of either opportunities or other challenges as we move out of the pandemic? Are there things that maybe we need to be on the lookout for as far as women getting back into the workforce in this sort of post-pandemic? I mean, I know I'm counting my chickens right. I mean, we're not out yet, but to whatever extent that we're moving out, what are some of the flags or what are the things that we should, as a society, right? Because we all should care, right? You know, of what to be on the lookout for as we get out of this pandemic.
Yeah, I appreciate that question. I think that what we're trying to do is when we shut down, 95% of our services were in person, front facing. So we had to immediately shift to a variety of platforms. We had to train our staff on it. We had to redo all of our presentation materials from, you know, the handouts, because again, people don't have access to technology to the same extent that we do. You know, it's a lot of upskilling, but it's trying to help provide these safety nets for women so that, for example, if a woman is fortunate enough to have transportation and she needs a car repair that is $500, does she have the funds?
Right.
And probably not. So she's going to have to pull from something else, which is going to put her in an extremely vulnerable situation. So I would say that, you know, in terms of support for Dress for Success and the women that we're serving is if you have a specific skill set that would help women get into the workforce, whether it's coaching or mentoring or helping with resumes or mock interviews, then we would love to hear from you. If you have the ability to donate an hour of your compensation, we have a team of 4 full-time individuals, and that's it. You know, for more than 800 women, we manage. In a non-COVID environment, we have over 1,000 volunteers. We are going to restart our events on Friday called our inventory reduction events. We get a ton of clothes that are not appropriate for the interview or the employment sitting. We've got opportunities to come in and help sort and put them into the different buckets. But those items that have value, we will offer out at majority of the items go out for $1, but it helps our clients extend their wardrobe and the wardrobes of their family members. So there's a number of ways people can plug in, but in terms of helping them secure employment, if you have any job openings, send them to us. We do have women who have PhDs. I mean, it is not just that young woman who maybe opted out of school to have a child when she was very young. It could be that veteran who again needs the civilian resume. It could be someone who has a fear of technology and just could use some one-on-one coaching. It could be doing, you know, credit checks and background checks and helping with that. A lot of employers do credit checks now. We've got clients that they don't even know there's issues in their credit.
Right.
So when we do an extensive financial education program, we teach them all of those things and how to build good credit while at the same time addressing maybe some bad credit issues.
Wow. Well, you know what? We are getting about 15 minutes out. This would be a great time to maybe open it up to the audience here. We've got Kerry here. I mean, if you've got some just comments or questions or anything, this would be a great time to kind of just open it up. You can either come I think we have a small enough group. I think you can just unmute and just hop on and say something. Floor is open.
I will pop in real quick and just say I am so appreciative of what you're bringing to the table. You know, that there's such a need for an organization like yours. And, I think people just undervalue in many situations what us as women actually deal with, as far as the family being a part, being the, whether it's a sole breadwinner, whether it's and with this entire childcare issue and school issue over the last year, I have seen so many people struggle that never struggled before. And that's just because they're trying to balance so many things. So, your stats as far as the women in the workforce and that turnover rate is I can see exactly why that is. So I appreciate you just bringing that front and center. I think it's really important to do.
Well, thank you for that. And, we too are seeing women who were greatly impacted back in the 2007, 2009 recession that were really beginning to build their wealth. And, wealth is relative, right? I mean, in some cases, it's just making sure you have an emergency fund. Other people are working towards retirement. Some people are just trying to, their milestone may be that they've got one extra month of rent set aside. And they were doing really well. And to see some of these women return now who've been impacted again, it's like, when are you going to catch a break? My son got married on Friday. It was extraordinary circumstances. His bride's father's very, very ill. And she had just gone back to work as a kindergarten teacher in person on Wednesday. She had to take Thursday and Friday off to get ready for the wedding. And he actually passed on Sunday. But her fear as a teacher in going into that workforce is being exposed to so many children and their families who are not able to access healthcare for whatever reasons. It could be, ignorance, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but just, there's so much conflicting information out there about, well, do I go with Moderna? Do I go with Pfizer? Am I eligible now? What is my, there's so much. And her biggest fear as a teacher, and she has the job, is just the exposure. So even for those who are in the workforce, and let me just share with you, these women who were fortunate enough to maintain jobs, whether it was retail or the food industry, you are taking people who are already vulnerable, putting them in high density situations like a public transportation, a bus or the rapid, to get to work for minimum or slightly above minimum wage. I mean, it's really just, it's daunting.
Yeah. And I would also note that I appreciate the fact that your organization moving forward, I see so many of my clients' employees that have been laid off, furloughed, now they're at home, and they've got like a good 12 months of being at home, and now we have to reinvent them. So as things open back up, we're looking at, okay, how do I make you whole again and competitive, because you took the leap of faith because you had to take care of your children. It wasn't for what you would have preferred probably not to, but you're home, and now you have to increase your skill set, and now you have to compete again for jobs that you probably already had. And now you're going backwards to go forward.
Absolutely. Upskilling is a critical part of what needs to be done going forward.
Any other comments, questions? The floor is open.
Make sure you follow them on social media so you can attend their blowout sales, because they're amazing.
Okay.
Thank you, Maureen.
I'm listening.
Thank you, Maureen. We just happen to be doing it this Friday from 11 to 7.
It already happens to be on my calendar.
All right, fine.
100% of those funds. So this in 2014, this is kind of a fun fact. In 2014, Dress for Success was recognized with the Mecklenburg County Wipeout Waste Community Partner of the Year program. Took me a long time to say that. For diverting nearly 30 tons of textile from the landfill. I always like to say we were green before it was sexy.
No.
And those are items like, we're not going to put someone in a Michael Kors cocktail dress for an interview. but that has tremendous value. And so we will take that item, it will go either in that inventory reduction event, if you will. It's a fundraiser. We don't call it a sale. But I mean, you could get an Neiman Marcus cashmere sweater for $1. Or for real high-end items like Gucci and Valentino and Ferragamo and some of the other ones, we have a Poshmark closet. Because if we can sell on Poshmark a pair of shoes for $300 and we can get some extra lovely size items, we call them extra lovely, because we don't get those sizes donated in the same volume as say a 4, 6, 8, and 10. But if I can get for $20 a piece, a pair of slacks that a woman can wear to the workforce, or an extra lovely size blouse, you're talking about 15 items that I can give to a client because we got rid of one pair of Valentino shoes that has this ostentatious bow on it that we would not send someone to an interview. So we're always looking at creative ways to drive revenue, but with 4 employees, that's a lot of work. But we also passionately believe in the critical importance of this mission. And so that's why we do those types of things.
Well, as we know, it's not just about the business suit, but here's a question is, do you have any connections? Does Dress for Sex have connections with, I don't know whether, I mean, again, this shows my sort of lack of knowledge of like retail and clothes, like the stores that sell such things, outlets, things of that name. Do you have like connections to where they run through their line and, I mean, it, kind of like I've worked with a lot of different chapters, like groups like Food Not Bombs or something, and they'll go right to the grocery store and they'll get the food and then they'll go distribute it. I mean, what happens to, I mean, what was today's fashion, and maybe fashion runs through really quickly, is what is, I mean, at least, I guess the question is, do you have like support from the Belks or whoever else out there who are able to get you some of their, that never sold, right? So beyond donations, what do you have any of those kind of connections? If not, how do we make it happen? Because it sounds like to me that would make sense.
We do right now. Inventory in most sizes is not a problem because in the past year, many of us, including those on the call, have purged our closets. And problem is it's a supply and demand. So we had to shut down our suiting services for a while.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't do in person. We did start what we call the white glove valet, which is a contactless suiting. So I give my sizes as a client to the organization, and they will have volunteers who will pick those items based on size, but then also a size up and a size down, because not all clothing manufacturer sizes run the same. So we know that a Talbot size 10 and a J. Crew size 10 are very, very different. So we packed 3 different outfits for that client and told them, keep the items that don't work, pass it on to someone else that could use it. So what we really need always are those extra lovely sizes. So we put a little bit more time and effort because they will not be donated in the same volume. If you're a size 5X or a size 36, you don't think you're going to be that size forever. By the time they get to us, if they do change sizes from their own, diet and exercise or some type of medical procedure, this stuff is so threadbare. So clothing right now is not the biggest issue. We've got an abundance of that. Purses are always something that are in high demand. We want to give the woman not just the suit or the blazer and the skirt or slacks. We want her to have the purse. We want her to have the accessories. We want her to have everything that we would have that's part of that initial interview. Or when she gets the job, we invite her back for an instant working wardrobe of up to 5 more outfits. So it really is to make sure she's completely outfitted.
That so exudes so much confidence when you can do that. I just think that's fantastic. I'm gonna totally hit my closet after this call and find all the Kate Spades and briefcases that I don't use.
That's great. When we do the in-person suiting, and our clients have their own personal style consultant, and some of these style consultants are those folks that we would encounter when we go into Paul Simon for Women or Neiman Marcus. They volunteer their time. Talbot's is a huge supporter of ours. So you take a client who maybe has never had that one-on-one. In fact, many have said, oh, I've had a lot of one-on-one attention, but it's when I go into a store and someone follows me to see if I'm going to steal something. So to have that one-on-one and have someone really give you that time and to know that you're worthy of that experience. And each item that's been selected, ultimately you decide which one you're trying on, but then to come out and get the shoes and the finishing touches, the jewelry, we have a mirror in the space, and above it, it says, I am a woman of power. And to stand in front of that mirror, this is where we see the first transformation. The women leave 4 inches taller than when they came in, and it has nothing to do with the shoes that we gave them. It is empowering. And at that point, they are open to receiving more information about the programs and services that we offer.
Well, that's
Yeah, I
fantastic.
want to jump in real quick. Curry, I just want to tell you, thank you, that it's inspiring to hear you and that you've been doing this for so long. And most of you guys know me pretty well and know that I used to work nonprofit and just got completely burned out. And again, it's really to see your passion that and your genuine interest and care for people really is inspiring. And again, I'm looking forward to making my donation and getting all my friends involved. So thank you. We appreciate it.
So Shannon, you're one of our upcoming featured women of power, and you will be on the billboard what day?
On March the 6th.
Oh,
Coming
stop it. Stop it. Shannon's going to be on the billboard. I can't. Oh, my Lord. All right. All right.
Wait,
Now I
wait.
got.
Shannon, do you have your billboard artwork yet?
I sent it in. I haven't gotten it back yet. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you should be getting it probably today. So you will
You're
see-
going to rock that bulb. I'm just telling you. I know, Shannon. You're going to rock that billboard.
thanks.
So just to give you a sense of what the commitment from Adams Outdoor is, every one of the 31 women who are featured gets their own billboard. They get their own artwork that they can share with those that they're tagging. They all, excuse me, they also will get a list of locations. They will be playing 16 billboards throughout the greater Charlotte community, 24/7 that entire day. And so Adams has created the individual artwork. They also have a number of other pieces that they'll be sharing as well as part of the campaign. And there'll be a big plug on, let me see if I can do this again. There'll be a big plug on International Women's Day. And let's see, Erica Bryant will be the woman who's featured that day. Wilson's World has a piece that is playing that day. Can you see that?
Mhm.
Okay. And Erica did a piece Monday night on WSOC, so she's part of it. Maureen O'Boyle from WBTV, Ramona Holloway from 107.9 The Link, Sherry Lynn from the Bob and Sherry Show. We've got the president of Johnson and Wales. We have our Dina DiOrio, our county manager. So we've got a lot of women who are involved in this and helping to pay it forward to others who really just need that extra hand along the way to pull them up and out of poverty and onto that path of self-sufficiency.
That's amazing. Well, you know what, Shannon, since you are on the billboard and I'm not, I would love to have the privilege of you signing us out of today's episode.
Thank you all so much for joining us today. We hope that you'll join us again. And thank you so much, Curry, for your work and your passion for Dress for Success Charlotte. We appreciate it.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, and happy Women's History Month to all of you.
Thanks so much.
Bye, everybody. See you next time.
Have a great afternoon. Thank you so much.